welcome to the Dynamic Duel podcast, where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Marvelous Joe.
And I'm his twin brother, Johnny DC.
And this is a big episode. This is a big, important episode. We have two major characters.
What are the biggest?
Going at it, fighting each other this episode. Green Arrow versus Hawkeye.
They're the same exact character. Like, they always have been.
Are they, though?
Yeah. I mean, Green Arrow's going to win, but they're the same exact character.
It might be a coin toss episode. We don't know. Those are always interesting. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and go through the news, and we'll go through the question of the week and the no prize and all that. Then we'll get into the fight where we go over each character, and then we discuss how we think the fight will go, and we'll give you the results. That's how the show works. That's what we do. So look forward to that later on this episode. News-wise, there has not been a lot going on at all for like the past month.
Right. I think it's all because of the lead up to Infinity War. They don't want Infinity War to still any like thunder.
It's kind of the calm before the storm. So the only thing that we have to really talk about are the first behind the scenes photos from the Titans television show that's going to be on the what is it called? Streaming service.
It's
the
a
DC digital
service.
streaming service.
That's not the official name yet. There is no official name yet.
Yeah. So we'll be talking about that.
We're also going to be talking about Randall Park being cast as Dr. Stephen Shin in Aquaman.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, he was also cast in the Ant-Man movie as well, but he's going to be playing a SHIELD agent that we don't know too much about. But we do know a little bit about Dr. Stephen Shin because I remember you had mentioned him briefly in your Black Manta profile during our Black Manta versus Black Panther episode.
I may have mentioned him in the Aquaman bio as well. That was so long ago.
I don't remember. I don't know. That was over a year ago. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Real quick, though, we want to let you know that if you like this episode, we'll be releasing a bonus episode this week, just like we do every Thursday. On April 18th, we'll be pitching you guys on the story and cast of a Fantastic Four movie set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was a whole lot of fun coming up with what I thought would make like the perfect Fantastic Four movie, and hopefully you guys enjoy that too.
It was a really good pitch, not even gonna lie.
We'll play a quick teaser of that bonus episode after the very end of this episode, so stay tuned and look forward to that. And you can listen to the full Fantastic Four pitch that I give on our Patreon at patreon.com/dynamicduel, where we release all of our weekly bonus content. I do want to give a quick shout out to Adam and John Spees from the Blast from Our Past podcast, who directly inspired many of the casting choices we made for the Fantastic Four, and inadvertently made it my goal to sell them on a good Fantastic Four movie. So check them out when you get a chance. They're like my personal favorite podcast. So it's time to hand out the No Prize.
Yeah, so the No Prize is an award that Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans who spotted continuity errors or typos within their comics. It was an envelope, essentially, an empty envelope, and that was the joke. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award. It's a JPEG. That's pretty awesome. That we post on social media that I personally draw for those who we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week. Last week's question was, after Aquaman, Shazam, and Wonder Woman 2, which are already in production, what are the next 3 films you would want DC to make if you were in charge of DC Films? And we received 2 answers. I thought there would be a lot more people with an opinion on this. But no, so it was a toss-up. Out of the 2, I'm giving the award to Jordan Ross Shield. Again, this is his second week in a row winning the No Prize. Mm-hmm. He answered Legion of Doom, Green Lantern, and I'm assuming he was referring to Green Lantern Corps.
Yes.
And then Justice League 2. But he stipulated that Justice League 2 has to have Darkseid or Joker as the villain.
I would say Darkseid, because we still need to see Darkseid. It needs
to be Darkseid. I need a live-action version of Darkseid that's just... It's automatically going to be infinitely cooler than Thanos, because Thanos looks like Barney
and
compared to Darkseid.
The DC cinematic version of the Joker is no bueno. He's not very good.
They're temporary tattoos, dude. It's okay. They're just temporary tattoos. You just need to wash them off.
Including the damaged one on the forehead?
Yeah.
What if they were all temporary tattoos except for the damaged one on his forehead?
No, that wouldn't be good. So what struck me out of this list was Legion of Doom. So Marvel has this history of setting up their characters in previous films. So we've already been introduced to the start of the Legion of Doom at the end of Justice League. So I think his approach struck me as sort of like a Marvel approach, where you introduce the characters before they like their big movie. You're leading up to something, essentially.
Yeah.
So if you have Justice League, and then that leads into Legion of Doom, where you sort of see that team form and get well acquainted with those characters.
Yeah, and see more of Deathstroke and stuff.
Yeah, have a sequel after that, where the Justice League fight the Legion of Doom.
That would be cool.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I thought for a while they were going to go that route with Suicide Squad. Because I know, like, in the comics, they recently had Justice League versus Suicide Squad. So I was like, well, those characters are already established. I wonder if they'll end up doing that. I don't know if they will. They may. But I thought this was interesting. Of course, he's saying that the Legion of Doom wouldn't be the villain in Justice League 2. He wants Darkseid, which either will work for me. Darkseid or the Legion of Doom.
Yeah.
I want to see both.
Right. I think if I had to give my own answer, I would go with Green Lantern Corps, then the Flash with the Flashpoint storyline, and in there we'll get a little bit of Batman's story. So we'll get our Batman fix then, and then probably Man of Steel 2, I think, and then save the Batman for later. I don't know. What would you do?
I definitely want a Superman movie sooner rather than later. I definitely want a Batman film sooner rather than later, because I think those two characters, a lot of people have gotten sour on.
But we've seen a lot of them.
I know, and I want more.
What about the Flash? What about Green Lantern?
I think I'm more interested in a Green Lantern film at this point than a Flash film.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I think...
Weird.
Why?
I don't know. I'd rather see a Flash film, because we've already seen a Green Lantern movie.
Yeah, I mean, we've also most recently seen The Flash, too. Like, we haven't seen the new cinematic version of Green Lantern in this universe.
True.
So I definitely want to see that. I just want to see, like, the whole, like, his costume. I want to see all of the Justice League members, like, all 7 of them together, like, in their costumes. If we do Green Lantern, we just get closer to that.
Well, the best place to maybe see all of them get together is in Flash, because the Flashpoint movie would almost be like a sequel to Justice League, because you'll have all those actors in it, right?
Yeah, possibly. I can't even remember what Green Lantern's role was in Flashpoint, if he had one. Do you not remember?
All right. Congrats again to Jordan and Ross Shield. You win the No Prize, and we'll be asking another question of the week later on this episode. So listen for that, and you too could win a No Prize.
Yep. On to the news. Okay. So, do you ever get that feeling when all of your hopes and dreams are going to come true, and then they're just like horribly, horribly shit on?
I'm a Marvel fan, so no, that never happens to me. I don't know what that's like. What is that like?
It's horrible. It's the worst. So there was some behind the scenes photos of the actors who are in the Titans series. And, we've seen 3 of the characters in costume. We've seen Robin, we've seen Hawk, and we've seen Dove in costume.
In promotional photos.
And those were fantastic costumes. I cannot get over how good those costumes were.
They were perfect.
But apparently, the entire budget for the show went to those costumes based off of these photographs. Because we see Beast Boy, who's being played by Ryan Potter. We see Raven being played by Tegan Croft. And we see Starfire being played by Anna Diop.
But these are just their civilian clothes, right? These aren't their like official superhero costumes. Right?
No, they're definitely like out, walking the streets and stuff like that. But Beast Boy doesn't have green skin.
His green hair.
Yeah, half of his hair is green. Like the top half of his hair is green. The rest of it is like black. It looks like a really bad wig, because that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
A really bad wig. Tegan Croft looks better than I thought she would. Like, I thought, it was going to look like an 11-year-old playing adjacent to, like, a 25-year-old. But she's gotten taller since her casting was first announced. She must have, because she's almost as tall as Ryan Potter. She looks fine right side by side with him. So that worry is kind of gone. But
does Raven have purple hair? Because she has purple hair in this photo. I thought Raven had, like, black hair.
She has different colored hair. I think I've seen her with purple hair in the comics. That doesn't bother me. Like, Raven doesn't bother me in the least. It's mostly Beast Boy and Starfire. This look for Starfire.
It's not her final
is
costume. It can't be.
horrendous.
I think she's just wearing.
I don't think any of these are their final costumes, but that's not the issue. The issue is that like she's supposed to be like this like really naive kind of character. You know, that she has a sweetness about her. And this one, what did someone describe it as? She looks like a lady of the night in this photo.
Well, Starfire, the character, is somewhat of a sexually naive but somewhat promiscuous character, isn't she? Is promiscuous the right word?
Yeah, actually, that's true. Yeah.
So it may be that she like came to Earth and then she just found this outfit that she thought looked cool, and it turns out that it's kind of, you know, a little streetwalker-ish.
Yeah. It's just so different from what I imagined. Like after seeing Robin and Hawk and Dove, like I thought these were going to be so cool.
Well, I think the hair is what threw me off the most because, you know, Starfire, if you don't know who the character of Starfire is from the comics, she has like this golden skin and this bright, fiery orange hair, super long, and this kind of scantily clad purple outfit.
Yeah.
And in this, she doesn't really match.
No, she doesn't have orange hair. She has pink hair.
Pink hair, and it's
it's not like flowing at all. You know, it looks like a bad wig.
Yeah.
You know, like the great aesthetic about Starfire is that like when she flies, like her hair kind of like leaves like this glowing kind of fiery trail.
Yeah.
I don't see how that's going to happen with this. It's just so far removed from the comic, from the cartoons.
Yeah, but I think if the costumes have any sort of consistency to them, once each of them get into their final outfits, I think it'll look pretty cool, except for Beast Boy because his skin's not green.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that I personally have the biggest problem with.
Yeah, me too.
Is that when he turns into animals, are they not going to be green animals? Are they going to be like just the regular color animal?
Right.
Or maybe they're going to be all flesh-colored animals.
And initially, I thought like, you know, it's fine because like all three of these characters, you could make the argument that Raven sort of has like white skin. She does in some depictions. It doesn't bother me if she doesn't.
Like bleach white.
Yeah. I was thinking, well, maybe they could just change the color of their skin in post. You know, maybe Anna Diop as Starfire could still have like orange skin. They'll just do it in post. But I was thinking about it, and rotoscoping takes forever.
Yeah.
Like it's almost impossible. The budget would be way too high. It has to be a makeup job, which they're clearly not doing.
Yeah.
Because they're in front of cameras. This is the look they're going with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I guess Beast Boy doesn't fucking have green skin anymore.
Green fur. Or
Green
fangs.
No.
Maybe he doesn't have those bottom fangs either.
Nothing. Forget it all.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited were you for this show prior to these photos?
I was like a 10.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And how excited are you now on a scale of 1 to 10?
Like a 3?
What? Dang!
I'm pretty sure I could go back up if I see like more costumes that are good.
Yeah.
I think once these were leaked, they should have right away released anything. Just give me anything.
Well, you'd have to imagine that they have more of those promotional photos, considering they had them all set to go months ago, almost a year ago, for like Robin and Hawk and Dove.
It still kind of bothers me that we don't know what this DC streaming service is even going to be called yet, or when it's going to come out. It's supposed to come out this year.
Yeah, but we haven't heard anything.
No.
Maybe they're waiting on the merger news with AT&T.
Maybe. Yep. Yeah, you're probably right.
Might be dependent on that.
Although, like, that in itself, it doesn't seem like it's going very well.
Or maybe just like you'll wake up one morning and you'll turn on your Apple TV and all of a sudden there's a new download for the DC streaming service, just randomly.
I doubt it. I would be surprised. You know, if that merger doesn't go through, apparently Time Warner wants to shop the Warner Brothers division to Disney. That's the rumor.
On some level, that's cool because it means that Marvel and DC movies would be made by the same people. And since, you know, the people that make Marvel movies are they know what they're doing, you would think that the DC movies would be better. But that's just too many properties for Disney to juggle.
Yeah,
I think.
I agree. I don't want them to have a monopoly on everything that's good. But it's probably the only way we would ever get like a DC versus Marvel film.
I hope that I don't die before that happens. Like if they can adapt, like continue building your universes, set up all the necessary characters, and then adapt the JLA Avengers.
That was a good storyline.
4-part series.
Yeah. By Busiek?
Yes. Oh my God, that was amazing. And George Perez.
Yeah.
That's my favorite DC versus Marvel thing, is that storyline.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was called JLA Avengers, sometimes it was called Avengers JLA, depending on which issue you were reading.
It was the same thing with DC versus Marvel and Marvel versus DC.
Oh, the run in the 90s?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Is that it for that news?
That's it for that news.
We will patiently wait further news on that. More photos, better photos, hopefully.
Yeah.
And so maybe hopefully, like, you would think some damage control on behalf of the studio.
I know, right? They need it. They need it big time.
Yeah.
I'm sick of people shitting on DC. I don't like it anymore. It's not fun. But this brings us to our question of the week.
What Marvel or DC costume from film or TV do you absolutely hate the most? Post your answer to our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or email us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com. We'll pick our favorite answer and draw that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to social media.
Yep.
There are a lot of bad costumes out there, but you have to pick the one that you hate the most.
So the next bit of news involves the Aquaman movie that's coming out at the end of this year. They're doing, I guess, pickups right now.
Reshoots?
Yeah. I don't know what's the difference between a pickup and a reshoot.
A reshoot probably is a reshoot of existing material that they've already shot, and pickups are new material.
You said that with confidence, so I believe you.
Thank you.
Apparently, they had cast Randall Park as Dr. Stephen Shin. If you don't know who Randall Park is, you probably haven't seen the movie The Interview.
Yeah.
He played Kim Jong-un. But like you said earlier, he's also going to be in Ant-Man due this summer.
Yes.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Like for a guy to jump from Marvel to DC right away, like usually it takes a while.
Usually it never happens because once you stick with Marvel, you stay with Marvel.
That's not true at all.
Once you go Marvel, you don't go back.
That's not true at all. And I
not
can't think of any.
Ready,
right
go.
now.
Off the top of your head.
Willem Dafoe.
Oh, good call. There you go. Yep, good call. Although that's not the Marvel Studios
No.
property, but whatever. Okay.
So what strikes me as interesting about this is that if they're shooting these brand new scenes, these aren't going to be like small scenes because they cast a big time actor. Not that he's big time, but he's a well-known actor.
He's up and coming.
He has his own TV show.
Yeah.
You know, with Fresh Off the Boat.
Right.
And so, to me, it kind of worries me. I'm glad to see the character in there because he is a big part of Aquaman's origin when he's a kid.
Can you remind me who he is again?
Dr. Stephen Shin is a marine biologist who helped Aquaman learn about himself and his powers and his biology. Mm-hmm. It was who Aquaman's father, Tom Curry, brought him to help like figure out what was going on with his son.
Why he was able to breathe underwater and stuff.
Right. And so Dr. Stephen Shin became obsessed with Atlantis and was obsessed with revealing his findings of Atlantis and of Arthur's, biology to the world to become, renowned.
Yeah.
And Tom Curry wouldn't let him do that. So he destroyed his research, and that's what caused Dr. Stephen Shin to hire Black Manta to go and collect DNA evidence of Aquaman's biology.
Okay.
So an important part... he's obviously, a comedic actor. I don't know if this will be a comedic role, but why not? It would be nice to have. Are there any other comedians in this? Not really.
Well, the guy who plays Black Manta, what's his name? I don't remember his name.
Black Manta better not be a comedic role.
But he was in Baywatch.
Yeah.
In a comedic role, although he was also in The Get Down in an uncomedic role. So
yeah.
I think he could do both, the guy who plays Black Manta.
Yeah. So I just thought it was interesting that they were introducing such a big element of Arthur Curry's origin, of Aquaman's origin, in pickups. Mm-hmm. It makes me wonder how much of the story is going to change.
Yeah, it makes me think that they realized that during screenings that they were missing a crucial part of his origin that needed to be told or something like that.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Or maybe some kind of confidant to Black Manta or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I mean, this news kind of bothers me, but it's also like good news. It's cool news.
Yeah. Only 8 months left to go for Aquaman.
Yep.
Looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't get pushed back like all the X-Men films have been.
No.
It's like no release date is sacred anymore.
I know.
Since that.
I know.
All right. I think that does it for all the news. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the main event. Green Arrow versus Hawkeye.
This is happening.
All right, Green Arrow versus Hawkeye. This is a big fight. Green Arrow has his own show on the CW. Hawkeye has been in multiple Marvel movies, even though he's not getting much love currently in the Infinity War marketing. We seek to correct that and include him in this fight at this time. I love me some Hawkeye, and I just want to share how cool he is with everyone, just in case people didn't think he was that cool.
I'm not too familiar with Hawkeye, but I've always been under the impression that like there are no two characters who are more alike ability-wise than these two.
Yeah. Not off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody.
Like, they're as close as you get.
It was pretty funny in the JLA Avengers miniseries that we mentioned earlier in this episode. They kept competing with each other, like doing trick shot contests.
Yeah.
And they were both like,
as people were talking, you would just see like an arrow fly by.
Yeah, they're going tit for tat. It was pretty funny. Their kind of relationship whenever they meet, whenever DC and Marvel cross over.
Yeah.
So the way we go about determining who would win in a fight between Green Arrow and Hawkeye is, well, we don't go off of fan votes. It's not a popularity contest. We don't go off of, uncharacteristic feats of strength. We go with typical feats of strength, basically.
Right, standard feats of strength.
Yeah. We gather stats from the Marvel official power rankings grid, and we extrapolate the DC stats from those. And then we plot them in a probabilistic model known as the Monte Carlo method that randomly distributes a deviation of their stat number along a bell curve. And then we add up those numbers and compare them, and whoever has the higher numbers basically is the winner. We do that 1,000 times,
right,
and we get the result.
Yeah, so no character ever wins all 1,000 matches, as we've stated before in previous episodes, just because you could always find a way for one character to defeat another.
Right.
There's always some way you could write around any kind of given handicap or advantage.
Right, exactly. So before we go ahead and run those simulations, though, what we like to do is we like to break down each character for you guys, go into their histories and their powers, and then we kind of discuss how we think one of these 1,000 simulation matches would go. We kind of work at in our heads exactly how it would play out, which is usually fun, sometimes a little frustrating.
Sometimes hard.
Sometimes we argue, but hopefully it's at least enjoyable for you guys. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the history of Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Hawkeye is a major staple of most incarnations of the Avengers team. He's known for his super reliability, his carefree attitude, and powerful and accurate offensive capabilities. I think that so far the movies have kind of done him a disservice in that they haven't shown how impressive he truly is. And he's kind of regarded as the useless Avenger on a team that includes gods and super soldiers.
I'm trying to think of the most impressive thing I've seen him do in the films. Didn't he shoot a USB arrow into a console,
a USB slot?
Like that? Yeah,
that was pretty impressive.
I think that that was it.
The explosive arrow that he shot when the Avengers were arguing, that was pretty cool because he shot it into the wind and it curved perfectly to go into their room that they were in.
Oh.
And he did a lot of cool no-look shots during the Battle of New York. So he's done some cool stuff, but he's much more impressive than what they've shown. He can really hold his own in a fight no matter how powerful the opponent is. And he pulls off all these amazing feats just through skill alone. His power is his skill and his versatility, and of course his unparalleled accuracy. So let's get into his history. Clint Barton grew up in a small town in central Iowa alongside his older brother Barney. Their father was an abusive alcoholic who one day killed himself and the boy's mother in a drunk driving accident.
Jeez.
Orphaned, they bounced around several foster homes and ended up under the care of a man who was just as abusive as their father, kind of an out in the frying pan and into the fire kind of situation. Dreaming of a better life, they tried to run away to join the nearby traveling circus. However, their foster father found out and tried to run them over in his car.
Jeez.
They were saved by Jacques and Buck, who were two members of the circus who performed as swordsman and trickshot, respectively. They took the boys under their wing and trained them. There, Clint excelled at knife throwing under swordsman's tutelage and was a natural prodigy at archery, mentored by trickshot. Barney was more interested in his education and eventually left Clint and the circus and joined the army. Clint became obsessed with his training as the new star attraction of the show, performing as Hawkeye, the world's greatest marksman, where he would pull off nearly impossible shots. Clint later discovered that his mentors were actually costumed supervillains who were embezzling money from the circus. They offered to have him join them in their heists, but he refused and they beat him and left him for dead as the circus moved on.
Wasn't Swordsman a hero?
He eventually reformed, yes.
Okay.
Swordsman eventually reformed. Hawkeye soon witnessed Iron Man save a group of people and was inspired to emulate the hero and use his skills for good by donning his circus outfit and fighting crime as Hawkeye. However, in his first outing, police confused him as a thief when he tried to return some stolen jewels. Fleeing the scene, he encountered the then criminal Black Widow, who assisted his escape, and the two became romantically involved. She manipulated him into becoming her partner in crime, and the two clashed with Iron Man on several occasions. Though Clint was never really comfortable being a villain, and he approached Iron Man telling him of his intent to reform. Iron Man sponsored his membership into the Avengers just as many of the original team went on leave. The second generation, comprised of the Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, and Hawkeye, formed under the leadership of Captain America, whom Clint came to greatly respect. Clint remained an active member for many years, helping the team defeat the likes of Doctor Doom and King the Conqueror. He at one point abandoned his bow and started taking Ant-Man's growth serum, becoming Goliath, but eventually returned to his Hawkeye role. He left the team for a short while to elope with fellow crime fighter Bobby Morse, aka Mockingbird, who you may remember from the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show.
Doesn't she have Black Canary powers?
No.
Black
You're
Canary.
thinking Songbird.
Okay, yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking of.
This is Mockingbird. When he returned back to the Avengers, he was asked by team leader Vision to lead a new team called the West Coast Avengers. They went on many adventures, though it was disbanded when Mockingbird was apparently killed by Mephisto, though it turned out later that she was at some point switched with a Skrull in disguise. After mourning for a while, instead of rejoining the main Avengers team, Clint decided to lead a group of reformed criminals like himself called the Thunderbolts. It was a volatile team, but his leadership transformed the ragtag wannabes into real heroes that earned pardons for their past crimes. Clint rejoined the Avengers, but was killed when the Scarlet Witch went into a crazed state. He was brought back to life when she restored reality after the House of M event, and though he was angry at her for the breakdown that caused his death, he eventually forgave her. When Captain America was assassinated at the end of the Civil War event, Clint considered taking up Steve's mantle, as he was one of the only people capable of handling his shield correctly, but decided not to out of respect. Instead, he adopted a new ninja guise called Ronin, where he discarded his bow and arrow and used more hand-to-hand combat techniques.
That's a spoiler alert.
No, it's not. After the Skrull invasion event, he learned that his wife Mockingbird was still alive. He rescued her and picked back up his bow and arrow to become Hawkeye once again, and was voted as the leader of the new Avengers. He ceded leadership to Steve Rogers when he came back from his supposed death. In one mission, Clint hit his head so hard that he started going blind. His
crap.
brother Barney soon after appeared as a villain, calling himself Trickshot under the control of Baron Zemo. Though Clint was going blind, he was able to beat his brother, and Barney agreed to a bone marrow transplant to help his brother regain his sight. And that's pretty much his history.
Trickshot was an archer as well?
Yes, Trickshot was an archer, yes. Hawkeye has no powers to speak of per se, but he's probably the most trained superhero out of all of Marvel. He trains a minimum of 2 hours every day to keep his fighting and marksmanship skills honed. He's in peak physical condition, including his eyesight, which is better than 20/20. His reflexes and agility are great enough to allow him to dodge most weapons, such as incoming arrows and some gunfire. His marksmanship is unrivaled, except for probably by Bullseye, but he has perfect precision with any aimed or thrown weapon. With his bow, he can hit any target from any position, no matter how small, including down the barrel of a gun, and can even shoot 5 arrows at a time to hit 5 close proximity targets simultaneously. He's a master martial artist, having been rigorously trained by Captain America. When he's out of arrows, he can use his bow as a parrying weapon like a bow staff. And as Ronin, he relied almost exclusively on his hand-to-hand prowess, fighting opponents like Hand Ninjas alongside Elektra and Iron Fist, who even complimented Clint on his growth as a martial artist. His one physical drawback is that he is pretty deaf. He's about 80% deaf due to the abuse he sustained as a child from his father.
Really? I didn't know that.
He relies on hearing aids developed by Iron Man to help him track and hit targets without looking. And those are just his skills. Let's talk about all the different types of trick arrows he has in addition to his standard arrows. And this is just some of the arrows that he has, but the primary reoccurring ones are his regular arrows, of course, the acid arrow, his adamantium arrow, his adhesive arrow, the blunt arrow, because he's too cool for a punching bag arrow, or a boxing glove arrow, rather. His bola arrow, boomerang arrow, cable arrow, electro arrow, EMP arrow, explosive arrow, flare arrow, freeze arrow, net arrow, parachute arrow, putty arrow, pin particles arrow, rocket arrow, rust arrow.
What?
It's a chemical compound that causes metals to rust.
Okay.
When he hits them with it. Smoke arrow, sonic arrow, tear gas arrow, tranquilizer arrow. So I'm guessing, for this fight, I'm guessing he has at least one of these in his quiver.
At least one of each?
One of each.
Oh, gosh.
One of each.
Well, that's interesting, because I was going to say Green Arrow has all of those, except for maybe the pin particle arrow. But, like, I've seen all of those on his list as well.
Does he have the EMP arrow?
Yeah, he also has a magnetic arrow.
Well, so does Hawkeye. I just didn't write that one down.
Yeah, right.
It was called the electromagnetic arrow. But I was like, he doesn't need that for this fight. But maybe he does.
I'm not impressed by that set of arrows, because Green Arrow has all of those.
Okay. Well, I don't care, because Hawkeye is just better. He can almost do anything, because he has such a wide array of arrows. It's not just shooting arrows. He's not, like, I've heard a lot of comparisons to, like, Legolas or, like, the girl from the Hunger Games or something like that.
Katniss.
He is so versatile that it's almost like he can do anything, because, like, he could freeze people, he could electrocute people, he could set them on fire, he could do all these different things from a distance with perfect accuracy. So he's a huge threat in a way that I think most people don't realize. So hopefully people realize that now.
Maybe, we don't know what his role is going to be in Infinity War yet. Maybe he'll have his moment to shine. Maybe he's the one who defeats Thanos.
I hope he comes through in a clinch. Yeah.
So Green Arrow has been around. When was Hawkeye created? Like, around what decade?
In the 60s.
So Green Arrow has been around for longer than that. He has this like huge, massive, long storyline. I touch on just a few of his bigger storylines, but there's a lot more history to this character. And this is just in the pre-New 52.
Okay.
So I don't even touch on anything in the New 52.
Oh.
But Green Arrow was created in the early 1940s by Mort Weisinger. He was inspired in part by the character of Robin Hood. Batman was all the rage at this time, though, so Green Arrow's alter ego, Oliver Queen, was a wealthy playboy with a secret lair known as the Arrow Cave, and had a plucky sidekick known as Speedy. He also drove an arrow car and had an aeroplane.
An aeroplane?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He was the corporate executive of Queen Industries, whose parents were killed right in front of him as a boy by lions during a tragic safari excursion.
They were hunting lions?
No. They were on a safari, but the lions attacked them.
Oh, shit.
He would have killed the lions with a nearby bow and arrow because his father was an archer and he had trained as a young boy.
Mm-hmm.
But he hesitated because he had earlier been traumatized in a prior hunting trip and didn't want to kill any animals.
Yeah.
He survived the attack. His parents didn't. And he was raised by his uncle, eventually inheriting his family's fortune and business in Star City. But he was more Tony Stark than Bruce Wayne. Mm-hmm. He was a thrill-seeking, drunk, living a hollow existence of luxury up until he was betrayed during a boating trip in an act of corporate sabotage. Oh. It was one of his friends, actually. He was shot and he fell off his yacht and declared dead, though in reality he clutched a wooden bow that had also fallen off of his yacht to stay afloat, and he eventually washed up on the shore of a deserted island called Starfish Island. He was stranded there without food or shelter, and he was forced to hunt, honing his archery and survival skills over time. Eventually, a ship showed up on the island. Oliver thought he was saved until he realized it was a drug smuggling ship and that they would kill him if they found him. He fashioned himself a makeshift green outfit from leaves for camouflage, and single-handedly took down the entire ship's crew and their island operation. He returned home to Star City inspired by his ordeal, and decided to use his newly developed talents as a costumed adventurer dubbed by the press as Green Arrow. He'd later discover and adopt a young man named Roy Harper, also adept with a bow and arrow, having been raised and trained on a Native American reservation. Together, Green Arrow and Speedy fought crime and eventually joined the Justice League and Teen Titans, respectively, using inventive trick arrows to combat some of DC's most formidable villains. The character remained a Batman knockoff until about 1969, when renowned writer Dennis O'Neil and Neil Adams reimagined the character. Oliver Queen lost his company and fortune through corporate fraud by one of his employees. Living on the streets, Oliver saw how the other half lived. And by half, I mean the 99%.
Yeah.
And decided to become a champion of the underprivileged and oppressed, kind of like Robin Hood.
So become Robin Hood, yeah.
See what they did there?
Yep.
So with his new outlook on life and politically left-wing mindset, he traveled the country in a pickup truck with Justice League teammate, the Green Lantern Hal Jordan, who served as a proxy for the established institution of government and law.
In a pickup truck?
Yeah.
Why?
Green Arrow can't fly.
Yeah, but Green Lantern can.
So Green Lantern's just gonna carry him around the country? No, it was a road trip.
Okay.
It was fun.
All right.
Together they encountered problems including racism, government corruption, pollution, overpopulation, and even drug addiction. In an acclaimed issue where Green Arrow discovered his sidekick Speedy, whom he had left behind,
Oh, yeah.
had become addicted to heroin.
Mm-hmm.
Distressed, Green Arrow accidentally killed a man one night while fighting crime. While Speedy received help from Green Arrow's Justice League teammate and romantic interest Black Canary, Oliver gave up being Green Arrow out of guilt and went to live in a monastery for several months. While there, he mastered the art of Zen archery.
What is that?
Zen archery it's sort of like subconscious archery. Like you do it without thinking. It's like focusing without intending to focus. It just becomes second nature.
Okay. Hawkeye could do that.
Sure. Eventually drawn back into a superhero role and going on many adventures, Green Arrow died in a bomb explosion aboard a plane, heroically sacrificing himself to prevent the bomb from reaching Metropolis. He was brought back to life by his old friend Hal Jordan, who by this time had become the nigh-powerful spirit of vengeance known as the Spectre. After inheriting another fortune, Oliver was back at the top of his game and was eventually elected the mayor of Star City, a position which he leveraged to eliminate or control the city's professional crime organizations. Though he lost his mayoral position due to evidence leaking that he had personally funded the covert super team known as the Outsiders, he did marry his longtime romance Black Canary during this time, Dinah Lance.
Yeah.
Their wedding was attacked by an onslaught of supervillains, but thankfully, they had invited the entire Justice League, and their wedding carried on despite the interruption. Green Arrow later joined a new incarnation of the Justice League, whose satellite base had been infiltrated by the villain Prometheus. Despite getting captured, Prometheus detonated a massive bomb that destroyed most of Star City. Devastated, Green Arrow killed Prometheus in cold blood and was captured by his fellow teammates as he tried to kill other villains who were responsible. Publicly unmasked and exiled from Star City, he nevertheless returned to the city's ruins when, as a result of the Brightest Day event that followed Blackest Night, listen to our Green Lantern vs. Nova episode for more on that, a massive forest sprang up in the heart of Star City, and he robs from the corrupt to give to the suffering refugees through the trees.
Oh, it's like Sherwood Forest.
Just like Robin Hood.
Wow.
Yeah.
They may as well just call him Robin Hood. So weird.
It's like if Robin Hood lived in modern day America.
Or if he was a superhero.
Yeah. So, Green Arrow has no powers, but he's the world's foremost archer and marksman, capable of pulling off impossible shots, including shooting arrows down the barrels of multiple guns simultaneously.
Yeah, Hawkeye could do that.
Yeah, I know. Fuck you. Though he prefers using traditional arrows, he also employs gadgetized arrows, or trick arrows, including, but not limited to, acetylene torch arrows, gas pellet arrows, buzzsaw arrows, cryo bomb arrows, glue arrows, I think you said boomerang arrows in yours,
Yeah.
and the ever-trusty boxing glove arrow. He's also hired the world's most formidable and lethal fighters, including Natas, the guy who trained Deathstroke, to mentor him in martial arts. He is a lethal assassin, Green Arrow. And he's trained alongside people like Batman, people who have trained him throughout the years and have relied on him and his skills to be there and do an awesome job.
But who's a better hand-to-hand fighter, Green Arrow or Hawkeye?
Green Arrow.
Hawkeye was the correct answer to that question. Thanks for playing.
No, they're both masters, martial arts masters, except that Green Arrow, in addition to carrying up to 3 quivers at once, He also often carries a katana because he's also a master swordsman.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Hawkeye does have a dagger. He usually carries a throwing knife as well. So just so you're aware of that.
Okay.
Is that it for his bio?
Yes.
It's pretty good. He has a good backstory. It's interesting how they came from different worlds. Like Clint came from like the abusive circus world, and then Oliver came from like the billionaire guy who became the castaway guy, basically.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting. But essentially the same.
The DC guys are always more interesting than the Marvel guys.
All right. Well, we'll leave it up to the listeners to decide that. But we are going to decide how this fight is going to go.
Yeah.
So we usually state that the characters start off about 50 yards apart. They don't know anything about each other, but they do know that each other are threats. And the environment is no environment because we don't account for the environment in the stats that we take.
Right.
So they're fighting in a non-environment zone where no character has the environmental advantage over the other.
Right.
So
those are the rules. Okay.
I feel like this is going to go like the Red Hood versus Punisher fight, where it was just really hard because they just kept shooting at each other.
Right. Oh, one thing I didn't mention is that Green Arrow is also very athletic as well. You mentioned that, and I realized I didn't write that down. But yeah, he's an acrobat.
Probably not as acrobatic though. Probably.
Why?
I don't know.
Don't let the mustache and the goatee fool you. He's not that old.
He has wind resistance on that face of his with his big old beard.
Oh, how about Hawkeye's big old like eye mask pointy?
He doesn't have that anymore. He just wears these
yeah.
sleek sunglasses.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. All right. So they start off 50 yards apart. I'm trying to think. There are so many different ways to start this that I'm like crippled by indecision.
I know. Okay, so Green Arrow fires off a round of tear gas arrows.
He's not going to start off with his regular arrows?
No, fuck you. No.
Okay, so Hawkeye sees that he's drawing on him, and he's fast enough to outdraw other archers.
Oh, okay.
But he's not going to. He's going to get the heck out of the way. And he's going to do a couple back handsprings to jump out of the way of the tear gas arrows. And what he's going to do is he's going to fire a regular smoke arrow at the ground, a smoke screen arrow. Because he sees that he's going up against another archer. He's planning it out in his head. He understands that he can't just continue to dodge forever and they'll just be shooting at each other. So he's going to create this cover of smoke around him so that Green Arrow can't see him.
Okay.
And then from the smoke, he's going to shoot out his sonic arrow, which emits a high-pitched sound that's going to deafen Green Arrow. So not only is he blind to Hawkeye, he's also deaf. So his senses are kind of like he doesn't know where Hawkeye is or anything. He's confusing him. That's his starting strategy. I think it's pretty good.
Okay, so he's like he's in pain, definitely.
And the sonic arrow went into the ground near Green Arrow's feet. If you didn't know that.
Okay. So that's when Green Arrow tracks where that arrow came from and quickly shoots out a cryo bomb arrow. So like it goes into the smoke and explodes and essentially freezes like a large area of where it exploded from.
Okay. So Hawkeye definitely has not only time to witness him react to the sound arrow, but also react to the fact that this cryo arrow is coming at an undisclosed location. Because he may not be standing in the exact same spot that he was when he first fired that sonic arrow.
Okay.
So what does a cryo arrow do if it has no target, if it like hits the ground? Wouldn't it just freeze the floor?
It just freezes the floor, yeah.
Yeah.
So now the floor is slippery though.
Oh, good call. Yeah, hey, that's a good move. Shoot the ground. Because it doesn't matter where Hawkeye's standing, he's going to find it slippery.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see, does he have a traction arrow? What can he do?
Traction arrow?
So he's kind of slipping. He's like, oh no. But what he does is he shoots a incendiary arrow at the ice to kind of melt it so that he's not slipping anymore.
Okay.
He does that real quick.
So then that lights up the whole area, and Green Arrow can see Hawkeye. So that's when he pulls out I don't know. Let's go with a buzzsaw arrow.
A buzzsaw arrow?
He shoots it right at Hawkeye's bow to cut through the bow.
No. Hawkeye sees that
he's too busy firing at the ice. Too busy firing at the ice.
Well, you said
the arrow's already coming for him.
Yeah, except you said that the buzzsaw came after he saw Hawkeye from the flame.
Yeah.
So by this point, that incendiary arrow has already been well done and shot. So he has time to see this other arrow coming at him. What he does is he shoots what I call a grabber arrow, and right at that arrow. So
What?
it flies near his arrow, it picks it up on the way and travels back toward Green Arrow. So he's kind of reversing his buzzsaw arrow back at Green Arrow.
No. Oh, so the feather end of the arrow hits Green Arrow?
No, it just carries the buzzsaw back
grabber arrow?
toward him.
That's
Yeah.
dumb. No, because it's gonna hit the arrows are gonna collide, and then like their momentum is gonna sap each other, and they're gonna fall.
But the grabber arrow, like it kind of has an attachment thing.
No, it doesn't.
What are you talking about? No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. You're
Yeah.
making this grabber arrow up. You don't even have a good name for it. That's bullshit. Okay, so you fired a bullshit arrow and
Yeah.
knocked the buzzsaw arrow out of the way. The only thing you didn't know is that he fired 2 buzzsaw arrows simultaneously.
Yeah, and he was able to shoot
So the
2
other
grabber
one-
arrows
Oh my
simultaneously.
Okay, so then...
So both buzzsaws are now flying at Green Arrow.
Okay, so then that's when he pulls out his magnetic arrow and he doesn't shoot it or he just activates the arrowhead, and then it sends the buzzsaw arrows flying away from him.
Oh, good move. Good
Yeah,
move.
yeah.
Man, it's hard to be creative with this. So
I don't know what the fuck that bullshit was with the grabber arrows. That's
What?
dumb.
I thought that was pretty cool.
That's so,
I surprised you with it.
no, you didn't.
Yes, it did.
You annoyed me with it.
So at this point, Hawkeye shoots a taser arrow,
Okay.
and it hits Green Arrow and tases him.
Okay.
Yeah, like hits him in the leg.
You only think it does because he still had his magnetic arrow, so that just got deflected away too.
Oh, okay. Is he just gonna hold on to this magnetic arrow the whole time?
He keeps it activated and he holsters it in his belt. So like he has like a metal shield now.
Okay, so at that point, Hawkeye was like, he deflected that arrow too. So he shoots the putty arrow,
Okay.
which is kind of like a widespread, fast hardening adhesive.
Oh, like my cryo bomb?
Except it's not ice. It's putty.
Okay.
So like it adheres Green Arrow's leg to the ground so that Green Arrow can't move. And Hawkeye, right after he shot the putty arrow, he fired an explosive arrow so that Green Arrow won't be able to jump out of the way of the explosion because he's adhered to the ground. Get out of that one.
Okay, his leg may get captured. But again, he has the friggin' magnetic repulsion arrowhead. So the explosive arrow doesn't get near him.
Dude, that magnetic arrow has worn off so long ago. It doesn't provide like a magnetic shield for him forever. Or if at all.
Okay, so Green Arrow, his leg is trapped. He sees the other arrow coming.
The explosive one.
The explosive one. He pulls out his own explosive arrow and fires it, and they intercept and they create a big explosion.
Oh,
and that
man.
knocks him out of the glue.
Knocks him back out of the glue?
Yeah.
I guess. It would have to be pretty close to do that.
But as he's being knocked back, he knocks another arrow, draws back, and as he's still flying through the air, he fires off. What else do I got? He just fires off some normal arrows, but he fires off like 2 quick rounds of 3 at a time.
Okay, and Hawkeye shoots every single one of those out of the air with one of his arrows.
Okay.
And then he follows it up with let's go with the acid arrow. And he's aiming for Green Arrow's quiver.
Mm-hmm.
So he shoots the acid arrow. He hits the side of Green Arrow's quiver, and he dissolves like a third of Green Arrow's total arrows.
So as they're falling out, he picks them up in a huge bundle, knocks them, and just lets them fly. So now Hawkeye has like a whole range of a dozen arrows just coming at him.
Okay,
And they're all trick arrows.
Hawkeye shoots his net arrow that swallows all of them up in a steel mesh net.
Okay.
And-
Except one of them was an acetylene arrow, and it goes right through that steel mesh net and right into Green Arrow's heart.
Green Arrow's heart?
Fuck! Hawkeye's heart.
Doesn't go into his heart. Maybe it hits like his arm or something.
Yeah, hits his shooting arm. I guess you need 2 arms for that. It hits his the wrist of his left arm.
Okay. But he's still pretty good even when seriously injured. So at this point, he was like, okay, 2 could play at that game.
Well, here's the thing: it was an acetylene arrow, so it probably cauterized right away.
Yeah, it probably cauterized right away, so it's not bleeding out or anything. But he got hurt by that. He shoots out his Pym particle arrows. Now I don't know if you know what these are.
They shrink things.
They don't shrink things. It's an arrow that within the head of the arrow is housed like 100 miniature arrows. And what happens is after he shoots it, the head of the arrow detonates and the pin particles grow those arrows into normal sized arrows. So it's one arrow that all of a sudden turns into a whole army legion's worth of arrows. So it's a shit ton of arrows, and they're all coming straight for Green Arrow. And then Green Arrow dies.
No.
How are you gonna get out of this one? There's no way.
Okay, well, let me see what I got. That's when... I'm looking at a list of Green Arrow's trick arrows right now.
Dude, all this time that you're taking is just, for each second that you take, Green Arrow's getting hit by another arrow.
No, that's when he pulls out an explosive arrow, fires it right into the heart of those arrows, causes an explosion, and causes them to like all go around like in a circle around him, but he actually doesn't get hit by any. And then that's when he pulls out a boxing glove arrow and punches Hawkeye right in his fat face.
Okay, all right. So I'll let Hawkeye get punched by it because boxing glove arrow.
That was my only
nothing.
Real goal in this whole match was just to get you in the face with a boxing glove arrow.
He was like, "Did you just hit me with a boxing glove arrow?" And then he pulls out one of his blunt arrows and he shoots Green Arrow in the face with it. And the blunt arrow, it's kind of like a billy club kind of thing. It's just blunted.
Except that Green Arrow just catches it and fires it right back at Hawkeye.
And then Hawkeye catches it, and then fires it right back.
And the Green Arrow catches
and this time it
breaks it in half, and then there's like, that's a dumb arrow.
What do I got?
So Arrow,
it's your turn, yeah.
Yeah, Green Arrow takes out a boomerang arrow. He fires it off to the side.
Hawkeye knows a boomerang arrow when he sees one, so he just stands there.
No, but he also has a few other arrows coming right at him.
Okay, so he ducks under those, and then he stands up and he lets Green Arrow think the boomerang arrow is gonna hit him, but at the last second, he jumps out of the way, and the arrow comes right back toward Green Arrow and kills him.
That's what he wants it to do. The boomerang arrow is supposed to come back to him.
Oh, does he catch it when it comes back to him?
Yes. So the Green Arrow fired off the boomerang arrow.
Yeah.
And then he also fired out, Dr. Midnight? His blackout bombs?
Yeah.
Guess what Green Arrow has?
Blackout
bomb arrow.
Okay.
Boom. So now Hawkeye can't even see where the boomerang is coming from.
So at that point, he uses a flare arrow to see in the darkness, and then he shoots the boomerang arrow as it's coming towards him.
He shoots it down?
Yeah.
But because he lit up the arrow in the darkness, perfect target for Green Arrow. As he's aiming for the boomerang arrow, that's when Green Arrow fires off just a plain arrow. We'll just go with the plain arrow right in his head.
Right in his side, we'll say. Okay?
Okay.
And then Hawkeye's like, fuck this. And he's like, I'm done messing around. And he pulls out one of his adamantium shafts, which can cut through anything.
Okay.
And he fires like 4 of them right at Green Arrow.
And then that's when Green Arrow pulls out 4 of his promethium shafts. And then
adamantium can cut through promethium.
No,
we've
sorry,
already
but it can't. We can't. No?
We've already
When?
discussed this. When I said we did.
No, we didn't. We never have. Yeah, nice try. Nice try with that. Okay, so by this time, they've used up all their arrows. So now it's just down to hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
That's when Green Arrow pulls out his katana.
Okay. And yeah, Hawkeye, well, his bow is steel. So it's not sharp, but he can use it to parry the sword. So they run at each other, and Green Arrow's swinging his katana, and Hawkeye's blocking it with his bow.
Yeah.
And then he sweeps the legs of Green Arrow.
And then Green Arrow does a back somersault, back handspring, backflip, back into the air, and then pulls a few arrowheads from a pouch and flings those at Hawkeye, like batarangs.
Okay. And then he gets hit, and then as Green Arrow lands, Hawkeye throws his throwing knife, and it gets Green Arrow right in the neck right as he lands on the ground.
What?
Yeah.
No, I can't throw things and then you just ignore them.
No, they're little arrowheads.
Yeah.
It's not like a throwing knife.
Okay, so Green Arrow gets his knife in the neck, but these are like razor blades he's essentially throwing. Hawkeye gets cut also in the neck and the penis.
Jesus.
So he's bleeding out as well.
All right, let's take it to the stats to see which one bled out first.
All right.
All right. We're going to go ahead and run these simulations, and we'll be right back with the winner.
Cool. A harp?
That is the sound a bow makes when plucked by a true professional like Hawkeye and Green Arrow. There's a pretty good quote that I saw online that I wanted to read by Hawkeye, where it kind of explains why these guys use bows and arrows as opposed to guns. And he said, "Guns are impersonal, knives are brutal, but an arrow, that's elegance. It's a handwritten letter in an age of text messages. A bow and arrow really says, from me to you, with love and kisses." I thought that was pretty good. But there was one other quote that I wanted to read that I had forgotten about during my research, and then I just remembered as we were going over the stats. And it really goes to show, again, how they kind of still did not get the character right in the Avengers movies. And the quote says, he's speaking to Spider-Man, and Hawkeye says, "I can't miss. I'm on a team with superhumans and one god, in case you've forgotten. Even you, well, you climb walls really well. The training is the only thing that makes me special, and if I'm not special, then none of this is worth it. I gave up a lot for this life. I could have been happy with Mockingbird. We could have had a good, simple life. But I wanted to play with the big boys, and if I miss, it means I'm just another dude with a bow. It means I've been fooling myself this whole time, and that's why I never miss." And that always struck me as more true to the character of Hawkeye than the movie character, because in the
He
movies,
had a family.
yeah, in the movies, he's a family man. In the comics, he is so dedicated to becoming so skilled that he's able to hold his own against Thor or Iron Man or Captain America.
Amongst them.
Yeah, amongst them. So he's the guy that gave up that family life to do this, to be able to do this, to be the human that can stand with him. And the movie's not really that guy. So
No. He's boring as shit in the movies.
he kind of is.
Like, do you remember his Thor cameo? What the hell was that?
I mean, Jeremy Renner, as far as I'm convinced, is the perfect Hawkeye. They're just not writing him correctly, I think. So a lot of people kind of make fun of him or kind of take him for granted when he's really much more special than what those films make him out to be. Rant over. I just wanted to say that. People are probably just like, yeah, get on with the results already.
These characters are the exact same character.
That's the thing about the results.
One is trained with Batman, one is trained with Captain America. They could both do the same exact thing. They both have the same arrow types.
Well, yeah, they both have similar armor tunics. They're essentially the same.
But like, and they're only like semi-armored because like they need the mobility
with their arms.
Yeah, with their arms. Like their arms are usually bare.
I mean, Hawkeye, he does have this one version of the suit where he's covered in chainmail, including his sleeves and everything like that. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't definitively say that would be the costume that he's wearing for this fight. Mm-hmm. So I kind of, when I imagined it, I kind of imagined his current costume with like the arrow insignia on his chest, the purple one. It's black and purple.
Or like the feather end.
Yeah, during Fraction's run.
Yeah.
That
with
outfit.
More sunglasses than mask.
Right. So it would kind of be unfair to me to all of a sudden, have him change his costume, have the chainmail
He's
armor.
definitely more techie than Green Arrow is. Green Arrow's, he doesn't like using trick arrows. He prefers using just straight up arrows.
Yeah.
But he has them. Especially in the new 52, he definitely, I would say, went more Hawkeye.
Yeah.
He even with like the goggles.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
They are the same exact character.
Essentially, they have similar personalities too, as well. They're both kind of jokesters. They're real quippy. Yeah. Both of them. So this is the first duel that we've had where every single stat came up even. So I haven't actually ran the stats yet because I know for a fact that this is going to be a coin toss. So I figured we could do something different and run the 1,000 simulations live, as it were, and we'll both discover at the same time exactly what side that coin turned up on.
You're still going to read me the answer.
Right, yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to run the 1,000 simulations.
Now.
It's running. Still running. Okay. I have an answer. And...
Please green arrow.
It came out to 1/10 of a decimal point, which made me kind of double check it because usually it's, we get results down to the nearest 1,000th.
Right.
But this one came down to the 100th place. So it was a perfect, even 51% of wins, which is interesting. All right. Do you want to know who won?
Yes.
51% of the matches, 510 of the battles.
Yes. Who are we giving the win to?
Hawkeye.
No, shut up. God.
No, I got it. Look, see? Here's the J column. J is Hawkeye. J11
Whatever.
Gets 510 wins out of 1,000.
Why am I so unlucky? Why? Every time it comes down to like this close, I always lose.
So we're going to officially state that Hawkeye is the winner for this match. But, it's a close match. It's such a unique match in that they're palette swaps of each other. They're duplicates. Even though they come from, they have different backstories, different histories, the skill set and their usefulness and their everything is the same.
Yeah.
So Is that exciting or is that lame?
It was kind of anticlimactic.
Why? Because you
For
lost?
me. Well, yeah. Yeah, I'd be totally like rooting and cheering if I had won. But even then, like, it's a hollow victory because, again, yeah, you're right. They're the same exact character.
Yeah. So I guess when people ask you who would win in a fight between Green Arrow and Hawkeye, instead of giving them the definitive dynamic duel answer, just pull out a coin. And then make sure whatever it lands on, you say Hawkeye, because that's who won this one. Yeah. All right, guys, that does it for this episode. Our next episode...
In our next episode, there will be no tie. Not that there was one in this one, but it's definitely not.
It's a huge one.
They are similar characters, but they are not like the same character. They definitely have different powers and stuff like that. Yes.
It is going to be Darkseid versus Thanos.
Oh my gosh!
And we're doing that in preparation for the Infinity War movie that comes out at the end of this month. So
it's getting close.
We're going to learn all about Thanos and Darkseid and figure out who wins in a match between them. It's one of the biggest fights that we're ever going to do. So definitely make sure you come back for that. Don't forget to subscribe or review and or tell your friends about the show. Don't forget that you can go on to Stitcher.com/premium and use promo code DUEL, DUEL, to get 1 free month of Stitcher Premium where you can listen to Wolverine The Long Night for 1 month for free. And that's the new podcast that Marvel put out, their first scripted podcast starring Richard Armitage as Wolverine. It's really damn good. It's a crime drama. If you like crime dramas mixed with your superheroics, go ahead and check that out for sure.
Yeah, if you go to our site, dynamicduel.com, as well, you'll also see our merchandise there. And I'm happy to announce that we received our very first copyright cease and desist letter from Disney. Not from Warner Brothers, but from Disney for one of our Marvel shirts.
Yeah, they told us
they're that good.
Yeah, what I did was it's essentially it looks too much like the Marvel logo, even though the word Marvel was actually comprised of a bunch of different Marvel characters' names.
Right.
They took offense to that and they asked us to take that shirt down. So
you know
that
why?
Shirt is no longer available.
Because Disney is petty as fuck. And Warner Brothers is like, yeah, let the little man do what he wants to do. No.
Well, we did put up some new original artwork up on the t-shirt site, so go ahead and check that out.
Well, it's not the original. It's the Vitruvian design, but we colored it.
Yeah, and you redrew part of it too.
Yeah, that's true.
So that
version 2.0.
That's never coming down because that's our original fan art. Anyway, yeah, that does it for this episode. Go ahead and stay tuned after this episode ends for a sneak peek at this Thursday's bonus episode, in which we pitch you guys on the story and cast of what we think would make the perfect Fantastic Four movie. So listen for that.
You pitch me your idea.
Yes.
And I say whether I like it or not.
Yes. All right. We'll see you guys in a week with Thanos versus Darkseid. Look forward to that. And until then,
up and away.
True believers. So it opens with 4 escape pods that were ejected from a space shuttle as they plummet dangerously down toward the Earth. The pods smoke and break apart upon re-entry into the atmosphere, some debris tearing through whatever parachutes were able to deploy. The 4 astronauts in the pods call out to one another, fearing for their lives. One pod crashes into a mountain. Another splashes into a body of water. Another explodes into flames upon re-entry. And another just disappears into the air. The 4 astronauts wake up separated and confused on hospital beds in a mysterious lab. The scientists there debrief each one, and we learn the 4 were on a private mission in space to study the effects of cosmic radiation when their shuttle was bombarded by a storm of cosmic rays. The 4 astronauts are Reed, a brilliant scientist looking to better mankind, his gifted and warm-hearted fiancée Susan, his supportive yet occasionally surly best friend Ben, and Susan's brother, the impulsive and adventurous Johnny. They each start manifesting strange powers while in isolation and use them to escape their lab rooms, and they find each other alive. They learn that they've crash-landed in a despotic country called Latveria, ruled by a genius yet fearsome dictator king named Dr. Victor Von Doom.